Perfect.
There you go. You are recording.
Oh, you're so sweet. Okay, well, welcome to the webinar and to National Gardeners Day. We're so glad you guys are here. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Julie Eskridge, and I am a certified aroma freedom practitioner, a young living distributor, a lover of all oily things, like all oily things, and a woman of faith and a self-proclaimed gardener. So you're allowed to add that to your title also. And joining me tonight is Andrea Johansson and Jesse Holt, and I'd love for you to get to know them too. So Andrea, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, you know my name already, and I have been married for 28 years. So I've been gardening for that time period because my mother-in-law has the garden from, Garden of Eden practically, that used to fill pretty much her entire backyard. So she has been my mentor in gardening and has passed on her legacy to me. I have been using Young Living essential oils for 6.5 years. And it's been quite the adventure the entire time, and best thing that we have introduced into our family outside of Jesus, in my opinion. And super excited to be sharing with you guys tonight and sharing both two of my loves, gardening and oils, faith being the top one of my loves, but these being passions of my heart. So glad that you guys are joining us tonight.
Yay!
Hey, Kay, glad you're joining us. You got on. Jesse, on to you.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I'm Jesse Holt. I live with my wife in Atlanta. I go to church with Julie right up the road. Julie actually lives about 4 houses down from me. If I peek my head out my window, I can holler at her and she hears me. But I am a design build contractor in Atlanta. Background landscape architecture. Building construction, horticulture being my favorite, but the others being part of my everyday kind of gig. So happy to be here.
Hey, thank you. We're looking forward to hearing more from both of them later on in the webinar. And I am so glad you guys are here because you're gardeners, right? Or maybe a startup gardener, or maybe somewhere in between like me. I go through seasons and years of doing things, and then whoop, I don't do anything. So in this webinar, we're going to talk about some basic things that are going to help you with 3 things that we come across on our gardening journey, and that is weeds, pests, and bad harvest. But we also have good harvest too, don't we? So oh, that's right. Am I supposed to take over that one? Or are you going to do it for me? Oh, you're on mute.
I can do it for you.
Thank you.
Thank
you. You'll be my Vanna.
Go.
Okay. Perfect. I don't do very well with technology here. But this webinar actually is designed to give you some tricks up your sleeve to help you succeed in your harvest time. And it doesn't matter if you have like a huge community garden or you're growing your tomatoes in a container, you're gonna find so much value in this webinar. I was just amazed at when I started researching this. So using essential oils in your gardens helps you create a harvest that is organic, affordable, sustainable, and you don't have all those toxins and chemicals in it. And these oils will last for many seasons because they have a very, very long shelf life. So we already did that. And I'm looking at how many years people have been gardening. 26 years. 2 months. I love that, Julie. 20 plus years. That is so good. We got some major experience on here. So good. But we also have a few newbies to oil folks on here. So we're going to go look at what essential oils are really quickly. And they're chemical compounds that make up the lifeblood of the plant. And it's normally referred to as the immune system of the plant. And once the plants are harvested, at Young Living, they're meticulously distilled to process to get the essential oils out of it. Every single plant needs a very specific distillation time. Cypress is totally different from lavender, totally different than peppermint, totally different from cedar wood. They all have to be distilled at an exact certain amount of time in order to get all the nutrients and constituents that we need. And Young Living has over 25 years experience, so they know exactly how long to distill each oil. And after the plant is distilled, this literally it drips from the concentrated oil, just drips through the distillation process. And that's what we call essential oils. And they're potent and loaded with benefits for your overall health and wellness. And you can use them topically on your skin, aromatically through a diffuser, or you can just cup your hands over, or you smell it straight from the bottle, or you can take them internally. Now, Young Living is the only essential oil company that has the Vitality line of oils that is GRAS certified, which means it's generally regarded as safe. All food has to be certified as GRAS in order to be deemed ingestible. So do not ingest anything from the big box stores or another oil company. They are not GRAS certified. And only the Vitality line in Young Living is GRAS certified. So you want to just make sure you're only ingesting the white label. But you'll learn more about that in the Basic 101 class on April 30th. We'll get all into that. Now, why is it important for Young Living to come up with a seed to seal promise? Like, why do we care? Well, the FDA almost has no regulations or safety measures when it comes to essential oils, the essential oil industry. And the oils found in some of the big box stores or online stores, once they were tested, they were filled with synthetic fillers and chemicals. And a cheap perfume grade oil is distilled at very high temperatures and for very short time. And so you're really not getting the constituents that a plant can give you. So, and why do they do that? Because it's cheap to make. It flies off the shelves faster at the retail stores, and they're looking at their bottom line. But please beware that these oils that are sitting on these shelves, normally most of them have 5% essential oil in them. And that's all they need to be called 100% pure. That is so crazy. So crazy. So even though it says 100% pure, no, it only has to have 5%. Now you're thinking, wonder what's in the 95% that's in that bottle. So just be careful and do your research out there. But Young Living Seed to Seal, they promise that all of their plant material is grown on their corporate-owned farms or their partner farms. And by the way, you can visit any farm anywhere in the world. It's so cool. They have these little passport things now. It's pretty fun. There are sustainable farming and sourcing practices. They take great care to protect the natural resources. Can you say frankincense? Yes, that is one that is becoming obsolete because of what's happening out there. They hand weed their fields, and they use 0 pesticides. For one thing, pesticides change the DNA of a plant. Imagine what it's changing in our bodies. So you don't want, you want an oil that's doesn't have any harsh chemicals on it. They use food grade distillery processing, which means they have to be super clean. They have to be inspected in order to have this GRAS certification. So you know they are doing everything top without any synthetic chemicals. It costs more to do this, but is so worth it. They perform 9 different tests in the labs and then third-party labs. And the oils that are loved this way go way beyond any kind of organic standards. So you know that when you go to sleep at night with that lavender and that cedar wood in your diffuser, you have the #1 essential oil in that diffuser that you are breathing in. So now, hey, let's get ready to garden. Okay, let's take it to the outdoors. In the chat box, let me know if anyone on this webinar is a bug magnet when you walk outside. Yes. Yep. I am too. It's like all of a sudden, it's like, where'd you come from? So, oh, mosquitoes, yes. I understand that one too, Cindy. Very much so. But it's no secret that bugs can ruin our gardening plants. From eating your plants to eating us, they can really dampen any kind of gardening dreams. But you could use an insecticide or sprays made with DEET or harsh chemicals, but it's certainly at a cost to your body and the environment. So they can lead to bioaccumulation of toxins in your body. And even the plants that you eat will have those toxins in it. And they are linked to chronic illness and disease. And bioaccumulation is a result of too much toxins too fast in your body, or your body's inability to process those toxins out, so they stay in your body wreaking havoc for years. Really scary. But fortunately, Young Living developed an insect repellent that has been tested to repel mosquitoes, ticks, and fleas, but they used 100% naturally derived plant-based ingredients. It has pure sesame seed oil in it, bug repellent essential oils. Those 2 things make up 99% of the formula. What's the other 1%? Vitamin E. So 100% pure, natural. You can put it on your littles when they go outside. I actually spray it on half of my legs, and then I also spray it on my dog's legs before we go hiking in the mountains, in the North Georgia mountains. But the insecticide, the Young Living insecticide, comes in a squeeze bottle, and I'm not a fan of that in the middle of the wilderness on my hands, even though it's all natural. I just don't want it on my hands. So I went ahead and bought this continuous sprayer on Amazon, and went ahead and filled it up halfway with insect repellent from Young Living, put an ounce of distilled water and an ounce of witch hazel in it, shook it up, and that's what I use. I use that all over, and I'm spraying myself right now, knowing it is all 100% natural, and it works. I've actually been using this one bottle for a year and a half now, maybe 2 or 3 seasons, And I can get 4 bottles out of that one bottle just by using this. So, but I also put it in a smaller little bottle. I mean, you can see I put it in a small thing, and that stays in my my backpack when we go hiking, in case I need to reapply. So, but there's also do-it-yourself recipes, and it is also witch hazel, distilled water, 20 drops of thieves, 20 drops of lemon, 20 drops of rosemary, and 20 drops of citronella. You can mix them all together in a 4-ounce glass spray bottle, or just go ahead and order yourself a continuous spray bottle. I think this was $5 or something like that on Amazon. I'm not sure, but it is awesome. A lot of hair people use this. So you can also spritz the insect repellent on your plants if it has little creepy things on it. But you only want to spray it at night. Doing it in the morning may burn the leaves as the sun rises. So you want to keep those plants safe and protected as much as you can. So just spray on at night when the sun, just right after sunset. Now we're going to move on to pets. How many people have pets, and what kind do you have? Go ahead and throw that in the oh my gosh. I'm going to go back to that bug repellent because Marcia just, gave us a little warning. She tried it when they were on the Young Living Alaska cruise, and she said it was awesome, but it sells out very quickly. So, good point. Okay, boxer, plot hound, how fun. 1 cat, 2 rescued cats, a boxer, a Westie. Oh my gosh, you guys have fun. Dog, cat, kids. Yeah, those can be pesty too. That's for sure. They're really sweet until they get in our garden, until they start digging in it. And I have gone out several times and just everything's just torn up in a mess. Now, a simple and safe way to discourage these are by using scents. And dogs, as a matter of fact, have 220 million olfactory receptors in their noses. Humans have 5 million. So, needless to say, when you can't smell it, they can. And they do not like the smell of black pepper. And dogs don't like the smell of black pepper. Cats don't like the smell of rosemary. Deer don't like mint, thyme, or oregano. And rats, remember those guys, dislike the scent of citronella, peppermint, and eucalyptus. And they usually tend to stay away from areas with that scent. So if you get strips of, old towels or t-shirts, and just strip them out and put them in a pan of shallow water with essential oils, 10 drops of any of those oils. And I will send those to you in the follow-up email tomorrow, just so that you can have that in your files. But you just put 5 to 10 drops, and you think, well, that's not very much. That's not very much at all. But remember, they have they can smell the oil with the cap on. A brand new essential oil bottle, you can bring it in and they can smell it. And that's one way to get them used to the oils if you want them to like it. So next, we're going to just keep moving on to unwanted and unpleasant growth. So, I don't know about you, but when I see the weeds popping up, I just immediately go, oh, yeah, I have to weed the garden. And I used to use that really bad chemical thing, but we don't use that anymore. No, not good at all. And if you're trying to get rid of unwanted plant growth without harmful chemicals, weeds hate cinnamon. So try your hand at this DIY. Put 25 to 50 drops of cinnamon in a 4-ounce distilled glass bottle. Now, I'm just going to kind of throw this out. This is an 8-ounce glass bottle. Of course, it's Young Living, but you can get them on Amazon. It's an 8-ounce. I suggest just doubling that recipe. And it also comes with that great, targeted or spray. Go with the targeted and hit those leaves and get around the bottom of the roots and so forth. And that just withers them up. But try to catch it when right after it rains, or it's not going to rain for about 4 hours. So sometimes it's a lot easier once the dew dries and before it rains on that. But we also have some interesting little things that creep up on our plants. And you can make this plant love spray and love on your plants. You can add 10 drops each of tea tree, peppermint, and citronella. Again, to 4-ounce, double it for an 8-ounce jar. And your weeding chores will be so easily done. And they can, and also the nutrients in the oils, the nutrients in the oils actually love on the plants, because when those little unwanted friends get on our plants, the intruders block the pores of the plant responsible for breathing, and then they eventually choke out the plant completely. And they also steal vital nutrients from the plants, and that decreases your harvest. So again, plant love spray those plants, keep them healthy, keep them breathing, keep them circulating. Let's see, we're going to move on to companion plants. Now, I am loving this slide, because I've always heard about companion plants, but I really didn't know how it works. So some plants play well together and others do not. And this is because every plant has a certain nutrients that it uses from the soil for growth and fruit production. Also, plants excrete certain byproducts back into the soil that can either help or hinder your harvest. So I didn't know it was also spit and stuff back in to the soil. And if you grow 2 types of plants next to each other that both rely strongly on nitrogen for growth, they will compete and overuse the nitrogen in the soil and starve each other out. So corn and tomatoes are an example of plants that don't play nice in the garden box. So conversely, if you plant 2 types of plants next to each other that eat different nutrients, they will work together and promote each other's growth. Who knew? So, and a good example of this is tomatoes and carrots. They work together in the soil. Therefore, plant them next to each other and it results in a more bountiful harvest. So what does that have to do with essential oils, you're saying? Well, essential oils are made from plants, so consider using oils in place of your companion plants. For example, if you're looking to plant lavender next to green beans, grab your lavender essential oil instead and create a companion spray to use on the soil and leaves of the plant using this guide down here. And you'll add 10 to 15 drops of the essential oil to a 4-ounce or double it, 8-ounce spray and top with distilled water, but shake every time you make a DIY. Just make sure you shake it really good, because oil and water, they need to mix. So down below, for green beans, you would spray lavender and basil on them. For broccoli, you would spray basil and thyme. Carrots, sage, cucumber, sage, and so forth. So your plants they don't have any idea that lavender is actually not growing next to it. So it's a great way to keep them going. What in the chat, can you tell me what veggie you struggle with the most, or fruit that you struggle with the most? Could be a flower or plant also. Oh, yeah. Melons. We'll have to look that up. Apple trees. You can tell someone's from Colorado. That's my sister. Tomatoes. Oh, green hookworm. Get back to us on that spray, by the way. The Unwanted spray. Let us know how that's going. Cauliflower. Yeah, that gets those little mites in it. Oh, drives me crazy. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much. We'll get back to us and let us know how these sprays help you out. And then next is the Pollinator Party. This is so fun. Did you know that some plants actually self-pollinate? Fruits like peppers can stand alone and produce fruit, but not every plant. They need a male and female. When I found that out when I first started gardening, I said, what? A male and female? Wow. Okay. But in order for to have a male and female to produce fruit, you need those little pollinators that get that pollen on their feet and go from flower to flower. So bees and butterflies are some of the friendliest insects you can get into your garden. So without them, you'll have just not a very big harvest. Pollinators are attracted to the smell of flowers, and luckily some of our wonderful essential oils are distilled from flowers. How convenient. So you can create a spray with 6 to 8 drops of lavender and 6 to 8 drops of orange, and this to 4 ounces of still water in a glass spray bottle. And just spray your garden. Again, I'm gonna tell you to do that at night because there is citrus on there, so I'm going to have you make sure you spray it at night. And just to encourage those friendly pollinators, and they will have a pollinator party in your garden. Let's see, I get to go through 9, don't I? Okay. And of course, after all your hard work, you get to harvest your produce. And all your hard work and patience is paid off because these tomatoes are huge. And the cauliflower is fresh, and your lettuce looking beautiful. And if you're like me, you find that produce goes bad before you can eat it. And that's because bacteria rest on your fruit. And without the support of a plant, the fruits and the veggies break down and can grow nasty spots on them. I know I've had that too many times. And so, as you can see, it is important to wash your fruits and veggies. It keeps you and your family from ingesting yucky things the produce may have tagging along. And Young Living has an exclusive Thieves Fruit and Veggie spray. I don't know if you can see that, but I buy it in the really big gallon. I don't even know how much this is, but it's the big one because I like to soak everything I bring home from the grocery store, as well as anything I take out of my garden, because too many hands have handled it until both get to my counter. So, and you can, and I like to soak mine for up to 5 minutes. I think it says up to 2 minutes on the label, but I go 5 minutes because I'm a germaphobe. Sorry. And, but you can make your own produce soak. And so you just fill up the sink with warm water and add several drops of thieves and lemon. So it's super, super simple. It has the themes, fruit and veggie has digize in it. So that's what's really, really, that's what I like about it. You can add digize to your water too, by the way. And then, has anyone ever noticed the fruit and veggies when they get in the house, those pesky little things that fly all around and they land everywhere, and they always land in my red wine, glass of red wine somewhere. They just come out of nowhere and I don't really know where they come from. But here's a simple diffuser recipe. Once you start seeing them, just put 2 drops of basil, 2 drops of peppermint, 2 drops of lavender, clove, and eucalyptus radiata. And the, not real sure where they go, but they're gone. They go away really fast. And to keep your produce lasting longer when you clean your storage containers, the Thieves dish soap contains no sulfates, dyes, formaldehyde, phosphates, or synthetic perfumes. And it has a delightful citrus smell. And so this one bottle of dish soap that you see right there in the slide, I can make 4 bottles out of that one bottle because it's concentrated. But again, every time I make a bottle, I add extra themes and citrus fresh to it because I love that smell. It makes it so wonderful. So we've talked about several DIY recipes so far. Which ones are you most excited to try? Just go ahead and put that in the chat. I know we went fast. Oh, yes. Yay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can't wait for that one too. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love it. That's awesome. Well, I cannot wait to hear all the success stories from these DIYs. And now I'm going to turn the webinar over to Andrea.
Hey y'all, and bear with me because I can only see my screen, which means that I can't see your chat. So forgive me if I miss when you respond, but please still respond because Julie can see it. And if you have questions or anything throughout, put those in the chat because we want to make sure and catch those during our Q&A as well. So we'll be on top of that. So, all right, I am curious to know, and this is something to put in the chat, how many of you love to can when you have gardened and you do a lot of canning and all of that? Because honestly, it's something that I have always wanted to do. And I grew up in Illinois, you know, near some farms. We were on a farm for a while. We actually rented a farmhouse. It was a cool place to grow up. And it was a farming community. And so many of the ladies would can. And I just remember that it was a huge undertaking. And so it's been like a task that I don't think I've ever felt comfortable undertaking myself, but I have some of the supplies to do it. So I'm like, maybe not. But when you start to think about canning, there are some ways that you can make life a little bit easier. So, for instance, if you wanted to can 30 quarts of spaghetti sauce, you're going to need a heck of a lot of oregano, right? And you would want to use organic oregano. And so that kind of ramps up in the cost of your canning supplies. Or you're going to use tons of dried oregano and you still face the same thing. But remember, Julie talked about Young Living having a vitality line. Those are oils, as she mentioned, that are designated as being safe for internal consumption. And so you know that any of the white label bottles can be used in your recipes, including in your canning. So if you wanted to make a huge, large pot of spaghetti sauce, you could take 2 to 3 drops of your oregano vitality oil and put that in your sauce to flavor it. It is bright and bold, but I'm to, hang on, I think we need, Julie, are you able to mute? Okay, there we go, I got it. All right, sorry. Keep in mind that when you use your vitality oils, a little goes a long way. So if you want to use a bit of your oregano vitality in your regular pot of pasta sauce that you're making for your family dinner, another trick that I can suggest is that you can just take a toothpick, take out that orifice reducer, that little clear plastic thing with the hole in it in the center of your bottle, dip a toothpick into your vitality oil, then take that toothpick and swirl it around your recipe, around your pasta sauce, because that swirl will likely be enough. And it's easier to add another swirl of a toothpick into it than try to take some out. So just know that a little goes a long way with your vitality oils. And the nice thing is that Young Living has a huge range of vitality oils to choose from, so you can put them in all kinds of recipes. They have herbs and spices and your citrus oils. And the nice thing with it too is that they're all non-GMO certified, which is huge in making you feel comfortable for being able to use them in your recipes. So I'm curious, if you are someone who likes to cook using your Young Living vitality oils, what are your favorites to cook with? And I'm going to call Marsha Miller out on this webinar because she has the best jade lemon cake ever. Now, full disclosure, jade lemon is not currently in stock, but it comes back in stock regularly. So it's one that you want to keep your eyes open for, or if you already have it in your oily stash, you need this jade lemon cake recipe because it's phenomenal. So what are some other favorites out there? Put those in the chat. I know that there are ones that people really enjoy using seasonally as well. We are going to move on as you guys put that in the chat because we need ideas for ways that we can use our Young Living vitality oils. And we are going to talk a little bit about love for the gardener. So if you're like me, you think, I can do so much, and you like batch work in your garden, right? So you go out and you spend hours and hours and hours and hours, and I'm one of those people who I can't stop until what I have decided that I'm going to work on is completed. And so I tend to overexert myself. Anybody feel me? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. I come in and I'm like, oh, yeah. I can totally tell that I have been working in the garden. And so those occasional aches and pains that we all experience following lots of time in the garden, working and exercising in there are some ways that we can help take care of our bodies. And a couple of them include using deep relief roll-on, the roller, or if you have your starter kit, you can use your Panaway for your from your starter kit. And if you have that, you can take your little roller fitment. It's called an AromaGlide roller fitment. And you can put that directly on your bottle and create a nice little roller out of your Panaway. Now this is my Stress Away. I happen to have been using that quite a little bit recently as I prepare to have our son's wedding in our home, where I've been doing tons of gardening outside to make it look beautiful for this weekend. So Stress Away has been my roll-on of choice, but you can do that on your Panaway, which I always do with mine. And also, I would highly recommend doing an Epsom salt bath, which is wonderful. You can create your bath salts with your oils of choice and put those in your tub. So we'll be sure to include a bath salt recipe for you if you've never done that. But that just really helps to soothe your muscles and help them recover easily. Now, if you've been outside and you haven't used your outdoor spray and you have not used your Young Living insect repellent, you might find that your skin needs a little bit of extra love. So this soothing stick DIY recipe is going to be your go-to. And it's made up of 5 drops each of lavender and purification, along with 3 drops of peppermint and a carrier oil of choice. So I always have people ask me, what's your carrier oil? What should I use? Well, Young Living has a V6 carrier oil that you can use, which is wonderful because that 6 is significant in that it's 6 different types of oils that are used as part of your carrier oil. Or you can go to your cabinet, as I often do, and grab your olive oil, almond oil, grapeseed oil, or if you have the fractionated coconut oil, the one that stays liquid, you can use that instead. So any of those are great options for your carrier oil of your choice. But you're going to put your essential oils into your roller bottle and then top it off with your carrier oil and apply it as needed. It is so soothing to your skin, because particularly lavender is an oil that every gardener needs in their gardener's toolbox, because lavender is affectionately nicknamed the Swiss Army knife of essential oils. So if in doubt, use lavender, and it is probably going to help in one way or another. And it's incredibly soothing for the skin. So it can help soothe those minor skin irritations. So you definitely want to keep it on hand. All right. There's another thing that is love for the gardener, and it is the Powerhouse Superhero Trio of lemon, lavender, and peppermint. And you can do this, you can use this trio in all 3 different ways. So you can use the lemon, lavender, and peppermint either aromatically by putting it in your diffuser, or just what I do is I actually take one of my empty bottles and I will put a combination, like I peel off the label. This one, I have M grain here, okay? I peeled off the label of my empty bottle so it wouldn't be M grain anymore. And I'd wash the bottle out, and then I would put in equal amounts of lemon, lavender, and peppermint in here. So it's ready to use in my diffuser, or I will put a drop in the palm of my hand, rub my palms together, cup my hands over my nose and mouth and breathe in deeply. Or you can put it behind your ears and on your neck, on the bottoms of your feet for the VitaFlex points for upper respiratory. It's very soothing. It's great seasonal support. The other option that you can do is you can take the lemon, lavender, and peppermint vitality oils, and you can do 2 to 4 drops in a capsule that you make out of a little veggie capsule that you can get at Young Living or on Amazon or wherever you like to purchase those. Or you can put 1 or 2 drops of each onto a tablespoon with organic honey and just take that, because organic honey is super to be having in conjunction with that for your seasonal support. So it's another way to love on the gardener. Now, we've talked about a lot of different oils, and several of them come in the premium starter kit. And so they are geared towards gardening, as we've been speaking about this evening, but every single oil has multiple uses. And so this just gives you a little bit of an idea of some of the uses of all of the oils that come in the premium starter kit. Lots of ways that you can use them. And if you haven't gotten started yet, the premium starter kit filled with essential oils is the best way to get started, because not only do you get 12 oils, and remember those AromaGlide fitments that I talked about, you get 2 of those. You also get a couple of the packets of our Ningxia Red antioxidant drink, which is phenomenal for overall health and wellness. And never more important than it is right now, apparently, as we can all attest to. You get a Thieves hand sanitizer and a Thieves spray. So really wonderful, as well as your diffuser of choice. And all of that is normally over $400, but you get it for $165. So it's over 50% savings, and you also get a wholesale membership with it. So when you choose to purchase again, you get 24% off of anything that you would purchase in the future. Those of you who are already members most likely know that Essential Rewards is a phenomenal way to really get the most for the money that you're spending on your Young Living oils and supplements and other products like the Thieves fruit and veggie wash and all the different things that we've talked about tonight, including the dish soap. But the great thing is that if you're not a member, you can have your premium starter kit count as your first Essential Rewards order. So what is Essential Rewards? It's that monthly box that comes to your door, just like so many companies do. But this is geared toward your favorite Young Living products. And the great thing is that I always tell people there's no downside. There are only benefits to it. And so try it for 3 months and see how it works for you. And again, if you're not a member yet, have your premium starter kits count as your first Essential Rewards order, and have the person who introduced you or invited you to this event help you place that order and figure out the Essential Rewards orders for the next 2 months after that. Maybe it's these oils that we've talked about in the gardening webinar tonight. But the great thing with Essential Rewards is that the first 3 months that you're on it, you get 10% back in points based on the amount of your order. From months 4 through 24, you get 20% off. And then for people who've been on it for quite a while, like I've been on it for 6 years, over 6 years, you get 25% back in every order. So because I'm not a math girl, I make this simple. And I talk about, let's just say that you've placed an order that is $100 for your subtotal. It's called PV, personal volume. I get 25 points back on that order because I'm at the 25% earning level. If you're just starting out, you get 10% back. So you're already getting $10 back on your order. And you can accrue those points and use them to redeem them for other products and things that you'd like to have. I always save them up and I put them toward the more expensive wish list items that I have, or I use them to try something new that I don't know if I'm gonna like this or not. Like Thieves toothpaste was my try something new thing. And I thought, I'm just gonna get that for free, see how I like it. And then I haven't wasted anything if I don't like it and I'll give it to my husband. Well, of course I fell in love with it. So it was a win-win. You get free gifts at 3, 6, 9, and 12 months that you are an Essential Rewards member. You get discounts on your shipping, and you get freebies that are exclusive to Essential Rewards orders. So you get an extra freebie at 100 PV and at 190 PV, which is phenomenal. It's, again, benefit on top of benefit. And if this doesn't work out for you, you can cancel at any time because there's no contract. So not a big deal. But it's nice because there are also a couple of Essential Rewards kits that you get additional discounts on, including ones on Thieves products. We've talked a lot about Thieves tonight, and on Ningxia Red, which is the most economical way to get Ningxia Red into your household. All of these are phenomenal, and your minimum is 50 PV. So you are doing that normally anyway when you are getting the oils that you love, that you're replenishing when you run out of those. You begin to get things like your fruit and veggie wash, your Thieves cleaner, Savvy Minerals makeup, your Ningxia Red, your supplements. These are things that run out, and it's a wellness journey. So why not get the most for the money that you're spending anyway and get points back on the orders that you're placing? And the nice thing is that then if a friend says to you, oh my gosh, I totally want one of those premium starter kits like you've got, you can help them do that with your member number, and you'll get a $50 thank you check in the mail the next month. So again, all benefits, no downside. It's so worth it to be an Essential Rewards member. Just wanted to let you know, remember I mentioned those freebies at 100 and 190 PV? Well, Young Living has lots of freebies that are new every single month. And just to back up with Essential Rewards, you customize your orders. So you put in everything that you want. You're not stuck into something that is decided for you. You customize your orders. But every month, Young Living does provide particular freebies. And we truly did not plan this, I promise you. Julie and I realized, oh my gosh, every single freebie for this month are ones that are used in these DIY gardening recipes. And there's a Thieves glass spray bottle that are in there, or that's in there. So purification, cinnamon bark, lemon, clove, tea tree, the spray bottle, they're all things that you can get for free this month with your qualifying order. So we want to make sure that you guys saw that. Now, I am going to stop sharing my screen because we have our special guest, Jesse Holt, who's joined us, and he is going to share of his incredible expertise with us this evening. So Jesse, I'm going to mute myself and turn it over to you.
Thank you, Andrea. So kind of going off what you guys were chatting about, we're going to change gears a little bit and discuss design and just some design ideas that you maybe can take with you, you know, to use in some of these other ways that they were talking about tonight. So just really quick, my name's Jesse Holt from Huntsville, Alabama. That's North Alabama. I went to school at Auburn, have a degree in horticulture, landscape design, and then I have a master's in landscape architecture. I've done some work in Nashville, landscape architecture work in Nashville, Birmingham, and I eventually made my way to Atlanta. Worked for a company here doing design build work on large construction, and eventually realized that there was a market for residential here in Atlanta that I felt like was being missed. So I started a company called Harbor and Harvest. And the idea in these 3 boxes below, you can kind of see it as design, translate, and build. I saw a lot of designers in Atlanta that would do design work, really great design work for people. And then they would hand them the design and just step away and then leave the homeowner or the property manager or whoever it was to find someone to contract the work out to. And I don't know if y'all have done a whole lot of work with contractors, but sometimes it's difficult to speak that language. They don't understand what you're trying to do. You don't really understand what they're trying to do. And so my goal is to help you design something and then get a group of
Jesse,
people in.
Jesse, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I want to make sure that we're seeing the screen. What we're seeing on our side is black.
Let's see. 1 second. How about now?
There we go.
That
So
better?
but that was important. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks for letting me know. Let me see if it'll change. Is it changing?
Yes, it just changed.
Okay, cool. So just closing up on that point, the goal is to kind of meet the client where they're at with what they want and then be able to give that to different groups of people here in town that I do a lot of work with: woodwork, ironwork, masonry work, landscapers, graders, anything outside, you name it, we probably in some capacity do it. And so the goal is to pretty much vertically integrate design and the vision that you guys have into reality with these guys. So today, I picked a couple different designs that I've done around town that just little pieces of design work that maybe you can look and kind of start thinking about places around your home that you might want something done, or think through areas that you might want to change yourself, and just some design details and tips that hopefully you can take away from this. So we're going to talk about improvisational design, and I'll get into the detail of what that is, and then formal and modern design, which kind of speaks for itself. And then together, how you can intermix those two and create a, grouping of some improv with some modern and formal, and some of the stuff right now that's really popular in the industry. So just going through some definitions, modern and formal design my take on it would be to create a design that maintains its form with little change over time to initial condition. So this is a design that we did in Buckhead that you can see it's very clean, straight lines, geometries, speaks to the architecture of the existing porch, very minimalistic, so easy maintenance, a less is more type of approach. That's kind of the background of what I would say modern informal design is. I wrote a book about 5 years ago called Improvisational Systems, and it essentially looks at design through a less formal lens, I guess you could say. It's the idea of designing a scene or a living condition and then letting that thing just kind of live out its life the way that it will. So this right here, I wish I could take credit for it, but this is Piet Oudolf's work, Pietodolf. He's a brilliant horticulturalist. He's probably been doing it for 50 years. And this is a great example to me of improvisational design, more garden design, cottage design. And I really encourage this because this isn't something that we're used to doing. You know, I know driving around Atlanta, you see a lot of really clean cut yards that, you know, 7 of these here, 3 of these there. I think that's great design, but I think that there's a place, it's probably in the backyard, to kind of push the boundaries, try to do some of this stuff. You know, don't be afraid to make a mess, layer seasonal blooms, trial and error, kind of like Andrea and Julie were saying, you're going to spray different things on your plants and help save them. And it's a trial and error. Same goes for planting the plants. In this picture, you can see some coneflower, miscanthus, little blue stem, rudbeckia, amsonia. There's all sorts of plants in here that work great in our environment. Where's everybody from? Let's see. From all this stuff works in Tennessee. I'm looking at where all you guys are from. I mean, most of these places, all this stuff is going to do great. It's a very similar climate. And interestingly enough, and with the trial and error bit, you know, some things that might work in Tennessee don't work here. And that's fun because you can kind of find that plant and you can laugh at all of us people that live in Georgia where it's too humid. So yeah, this is kind of a take on improvisational design. This right here is a good example of improvisational design, in my opinion. This is a precedent. This is in Atlanta. This is the Atlanta Beltline. So this was started almost a decade. Well, it's been over a decade ago. It was an idea that the guy had. He did a thesis on at school, and the city took and ran with it. It's a 22-mile circle, and it's essentially a greenway. It's about 15 feet wide. And so in this, I'd say the initial design condition is the concrete walkway that gets you through the city. But the cool part of the design that they did, and this is on a large scale, so this is a good example, an easy example to kind of show and teach, is they just kind of went for the wild and woolly. Year 1 of the Beltline, when they finished the East Side Trail, they tilled all the ground up and they just threw down tons and tons and tons of seasonal seed. So they put down like a southern mix of different perennials, and I'll talk about some of them later on in the slides, but they seeded in year 1. I think they did quite a bit of watering, and then I think Mother Nature probably helped them there too. And in year 2, you started to see a lot of things germinate. By about 2015, which is year 3, this was the look that you saw on the Beltline. I mean, it was just an explosion of different colors. And even today, when you're walking down, every fall, I feel like there's different things blooming, different colors coming out. Same in the spring, same in the summer. And that's just an example of this kind of improv, you know, of creating a condition and then just letting nature do its thing. And really the only maintenance that's involved in this is at the end of every year in late winter, you know, January, February, you start to just cut the stuff down, mow it down. You can literally mow it to the ground, and what's in the ground is going to come back up. So it's a really neat example. So it's one, it's affordable. 2, it's really interesting. The only downside is there's kind of bare winters. So this is a mix that I like to use. We've done a lot of work. I did some work at TPC Sugarloaf a couple of years back, and they were in the process of doing this. There's a couple places where I've actually done this on designs where we were trying to keep a affordable budget, but we had a large expanse that we needed to cover. So there's this really great product called Moisture Manager that really will work well with a lot of the things that you guys talked about tonight. What it does, essentially you spray it in your soil and it attaches to any water molecules. So when it gets to summertime and we have 10, 15, 20 days of no rain, this product, when we do finally get that rain, it holds the plant. So, for example, it just cools the soil temperatures down and almost like tricks the plant into thinking that things are than they really are, that it's not 95 degrees in July in Atlanta. The Let's Go Hydro Cover Triple Stark Mulch is another good thing to set on top. And then I would just throw the wildflower mix out and see what happens. So I think this is something, interesting to try in a flower bed at the house, a raised garden, or a section that you don't really know what to do with in the landscape, and just see what happens with it. The mixes are good for sun, shade, either or. What kind of happens. But definitely something will come up. It's a interesting little thing to try. So let's move on. So yeah, I picked a couple different designs out that I felt like you guys would be able to kind of take and think through. They're not huge, grandiose acreages of work. It's kind of little pockets of space. People would call and say, I have this little area, I want to spend some money and get this cleaned up. So this job right here is in Collier Hills, Atlanta, which is West Atlanta. You can see this is the existing condition. The house, it's an old ranch. I think it was built in like the 70s. And they had this addition here on the back. Kind of added a little modern flair, I guess. They kind of did this little window, and they're totally into the modern. They wanted to try to make this a really modern space. And I told them, I said, your house is a ranch style, modern this doesn't really fit with the architecture, but I think there's some opportunity here to kind of implement some of the things that I was telling you about earlier with, hard lines, straight lines, clean, geometrics. So we started the design process. This right here is something I drew on site with these guys and just started kind of kicking around some ideas of things we could do with big concrete slabs and kind of introducing these really hard lines. On the borders, I told them, I said, we still want to keep the cottage feel, I think, the West Atlanta cottage kind of ranch bungalow landscape. And so we need to introduce some of that stuff, I think, as well. And so on the edges is where that took place. And this is the finished product. So if you go back, this is picture one. And this is where we ended up. And you can see the way we came up with these square sizes, just kind of talking through some of the modern design thought, was pulling lines off the house and pulling lines off the planters and things of that sort. And that kind of set up the programmed area where they can grill out and sit, dining room table kind of thing. But then on the outside is where you kind of see some of the improv. We packed these beds just full of hostas, fatsia, cast iron plants, spreading yew. I think there's about 8 different varieties of hostas in these beds. And what's neat, this picture was taken right when we finished the job, but I went back over recently. The cherry trees that we put in these beds, these like lower areas are huge now, but tons of hostas had grown up. It was really neat to just see how the spaces that, we kind of told them to keep unattended had evolved over time. And so while there's tons of control going on in the middle here, and going back to this picture, you can see how kind of clean this space is. But when you look at the edges, you can see how kind of wild and woolly the garden beds are. And there is no rules. I mean, I was planting things. There's probably 10 to 11 plants planted, in 5 square feet apart from each other. And I think that's okay. I think there's a place for that. And it's fun to experiment, especially kind of on a garden level of creating these textures and explosion of colors, breaking some of the rules. So that is that design. This is actually my neighborhood in Virginia Highland, which is East Atlanta. This is where Julia and I live. This is an old Sears Craftsman. It's about 3 houses down from Piedmont Park, and a couple purchased this home and totally gutted the inside. I mean, it is one of the Sears catalog. You pick it out of the catalog, they come out and build it. So it's a really neat house. And they kind of like the last couple. There's tons of people into the modern right now. I think like the really modern look is popular. And so people are seeing that a lot, and they want to implement it. But I told them, I said, I think it'd be a disservice if we make this too modern. I said, you've got a Sears Craftsman. I think there's a space to honor that while still kind of cleaning it up in such a way. So this is what we turned it into. This is kind of the homage to the modern, doing these rectangle squares. We matched the brick off the house, and then we added slate chip, and you can see here like the hard edged lines that we have. So that's kind of the call to the modern. But another thing they really wanted was a place to garden. And in Virginia Highland, you don't see a lot of raised garden beds. This was the day we finished the job, but you don't see a lot of raised garden beds in Virginia Highland. They hadn't planted yet, but we put one right here in the front yard. And so it's a little interesting to see some of these modern elements mixed with more of a cottage type look. But I think there's a way to do it well. And I think this is an example of, kind of mixing the two together. Some of the plant material we used, again, was a mix of modern, like a boxwood hedge, and then packing it full of herbs. We got basil, mint, rosemary, sage. There's all sorts of things that we packed in behind the boxwood. So the boxwood kind of sets the hedge. And then again, kind of like the planter and the last design, you kind of get wild and woolly behind that hard line. And so that's kind of another example. Those two designs are somewhat similar. This third one kind of breaks all the rules. So this one's one that has zero form. The homeowner is actually a landscape architect in his own right. And they got this thing started, and they called me and asked if I had any thoughts on plants to add and layering that we could do. And we came up with this really just neat explosion. The pictures really don't do it justice. If you took a picture from all these spaces, the color that you would see every season is totally different. So the thought here is kind of like the Pied d'Oeuvre thing, with just layer, layer, layer. So in this picture, you can see some coneflower, some shastas, sedum, coreopsis. Let's see what else in here. We did a little dwarf smoke tree, baptisia, sedum. This is a pomegranate tree, pretty groovy. Boxwoods, we put in some boxwoods because in the wintertime, this is pretty bare. And so adding some rosemary in like that, and boxwoods, kind of anchor things in from a design perspective. It's good to have some evergreens, but you don't necessarily have to make them, perfect. You can make them almost sculpture. So, in the wintertime, when everything's dead, those evergreen plants are what shows up and kind of steals the show. And then you can see down here, this cool little area. I don't know where they got these. We actually didn't bring these in, but they fit right in with the garden, and then the old tub full of all sorts of different critters. But I would say this is really an example of true improv. And actually went and met with these people again recently, last week actually. This picture was probably taken 1.5 years ago. And the whole garden looks different now. It's just funny to see, again, how fun plants can be to mix and match. And, I don't want to say space is overrated because I would never plant trees too close together, but with perennials, I totally encourage you to break all the rules. Plant things tight. They'll live happily. I mean, you look at the big cities, we all live really close together. So if we can do it, plants can do it too. This is the last one I believe I put in here that we'll look at. And this is really more of an English garden. It's got some cottagey feels to it, but There's a couple areas where we added some modern elements, like with the bluestone here, kind of doing a bluestone path from the gate here in the back, up and over, adding in some geometry with doing these vines. This is Confederate jasmine, stainless steel wire. So this is actually a pretty fun DIY. You can buy these little hooks at Home Depot, screw them into the wood, get stainless steel wire, which I think you can get at Home Depot. It's piano string. So piano string, stainless steel wire, same thing. It's stainless, so it can't rust. It's extremely durable, and it can take this stuff on all day. In your yard, detail that you get on a wall, it's something of that nature. Here's another example, another shot. This is looking back. So here's the gate. You walk in, and a pea gravel, which isn't native to Atlanta. It's native to Indiana, but it's a great color. It's a little bit cooler of a color than your regular pea gravel mix, so it looks really good with granites, with bluestone, things of that nature. But you can see again the boxwood hedge kind of forming the space. This actually right here, this is a great plant. I encourage y'all to check out, maybe get 18 of and place around somewhere, a little flat. It's called chocolate chip ajuga. Doesn't like to get wet, but it's got a really beautiful bloom. In the early spring, it blooms for like 4 or 5 weeks. The bloom will dry. It looks pretty dry too. I wish I'd put a picture. I have a picture of it actually exploding right here. So that's a really cool plant. I think we have Myers zoysia in here. And then here's another view looking back at some of the espalier kind of vine shaping that we did on the wall. So yeah, all in all, you kind of look at all these and you can see this is again feeling a little bit more formal, a lot of greens, more about texture, evergreen, straight lines. This is actually synthetic turf, believe it or not. I know I'm a horticulturalist, but we do install synthetic turf. So you can see some of the brickwork, straight lines, again, working geometries. And then you can see the difference in kind of the more ephemeral, more bloom-worthy and eye-catching, colorful type plant material. And I think when you add them together, you just get a lot of really interesting results. And so again, I know that all of us, when we look at the front of our houses, we look at the foundation, we want something evergreen. We need something there that anchors the home down, especially in the wintertime. But in the backyard, I encourage you to try some of these ideas, some of these design thoughts of, mixing some of the norms with something a little bit more out there and get your green thumb going, see what you can come up with. Because there's really no wrong answers in garden design, in cottage design especially. And lastly, I gave this to Julie and Andrea to put in the handout. It's a couple of just really tried and true plants that really work zone. Some of them don't. Some of them, like this Desperado sage, is really probably more like zone 8. But most of these others will work in all the areas that everyone's from. And it's from sun to shade. It's a list of maybe 2, 4, 6, 28 different plants that I know are tried and true. They work great. They're durable. And I think you could come up with some pretty neat combinations, adding them to each other. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jesse. And what zone is Atlanta?
Atlanta is 8B. We're kind of on the edge of 8B, 8A. You can look up Google hardiness zone map, and you can really see exactly where we're at. But a lot of these do great from here all the way up to New York. So take a look at them if you're a little bit curious and see where it says that they'll work at. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I just love how that layering goes. And I don't know if I'm brave enough to do that. I have like in my yard. So
Yeah,
I think I'm going to need your help.
That is, Jesse, for me, you made me feel so much more confident. you can't go wrong. You're not going to make a mistake. Don't be afraid to make a mess. Like that was so empowering. So thank you. That was fabulous.
Of course, thank
To
you.
give you guys an opportunity to be able to ask Jesse your questions. So if you have questions either for Jesse or for Julie and I, go ahead and unmute and ask those questions, because we want to have this time be yours.
Okay, I have one.
Mhm.
So, Jesse, if you're planting flowers in pots and
Mhm.
you're reading what it says as far as like these will grow to 18 inches or whatever, but if they're in a pot, how do you gauge that? Because, like if you're planting them in a wide open space where they can, just take off. But so any advice on that?
From a standpoint of saying like overcrowding it, or yes.
Yes.
So I actually when I lived in Auburn, I worked for a guy who did this. He potted plants to put on people's front porches, and so I learned the secret of potting plants is really kind of what I'm talking about in this. Is you really can't overpack, because usually what we do with potted plants, unless you're doing like a boxwood or something that you want to keep in there for longer than a year, you're using stuff that's just really seasonal. And so although it's going to get 18 inches, it's going to look really pretty when it's all exploding out of the top, because what people are seeing are all these textures and colors. Now there is an art, I would say, to doing it in a way that kind of like a painting, like or kind of like when you wake up in the morning, you're not going to wear like a maroon shirt with like hot pink pants probably, or red, like you're going to match up, and so there's a way to get all the colors, the colors at least that you like, into a pot. And but as far as spacing, I would pack them in, and I wouldn't really worry about how big it's going to get, because they'll kind of crowd around each other and fill in how they will. Is that kind of what you're asking?
Yes, thank you. It's kind of like Andrea said, it kind of gives me permission that if I just put them in there and it'll work out.
Yeah, because what happens a lot of times is you do wait for it to get to that full size, and by the time it's to that full size, it's the end of the season. And so you're actually not even getting to experience it at its peak. It's its biggest, but it's not necessarily at its best. And so I think that's where kind of getting ahead of the curve a little and packing things in a little tighter. Now I will say this: when it comes to trees, pay attention. Trees are a different ballgame on spacing. But the small stuff, these perennials and even a lot of shrubs, like boxwoods, people want boxwood hedges. But if you plant boxwoods 3 or 4 feet apart, they're never going to grow together. And so you have to plant them a foot apart. You have to keep them pruned, but that's really the way that they become kind of a hedge form. So it's all about kind of what you want it to look like in the short term, and then kind of planning ahead, I guess, too, a little bit.
Yeah. My mom and I went to a container class or whatever, and he said you need to have a thriller, a filler, and a spiller. So I'm going to pack in my thriller, filler, and spillers, and it's going to look amazing.
Yes, it will. And some of the stuff that won't take off, you just won't really see that it didn't take off. It'll almost be like that space in the background that it's helping. You don't know why, what makes it all look different, but it makes a difference. It just fills the whole pot out. So yeah, filler, thriller, spiller, right?
Yeah. And he said the thriller can be hardscape, wrought iron, something, and I thought, oh, okay. So.
Yeah.
What other questions are there?
I have one.
Mm-hmm.
So I am in East Tennessee, and I've never seen bugs and critters like I have. We've been here about 1.5 years. But wasps are unfreaking believable here. Wasp and carpenter bees. Anything to help with this?
We have the same thing in spring and fall. The wasps are crazy around us. the same thing. So we took down one of our trees that helped, but
We have removed tremendous amounts of plants because we have found them, they particularly like evergreens. We found them, quite a few in the low cover evergreens as well, which we have removed. But I just wondered if there was anything to help with them.
I don't think they're pollinators, are they? No. So we can like trap them. So we do, so then I can tell you, we do have one of those things that have the house where the carpenter bees go in.
Yeah.
When every time a carpenter bee would go in, I'd pull the string and let it out. You know, it was dead, but I would let it go. Well, I read that you have to leave one or two in there because then that attracts more.
I don't think we've ever caught one in our house.
I know. The first year we didn't catch one. After that, we kept catching more and more. And I don't like to kill anything, but when they're
Then
boring,
they should
those
not eat
things
my
right
deck.
through.
If they want to live, they should not eat my wood. Saying.
Jesse, I have a question for you. So you caught my ear when you were talking about putting mint in your planting behind, because to me, mint is ridiculously invasive. And we just moved into a house and I've been working on the front yard, getting it all prepped, and it was covered in mint and we're ripping it out like crazy. Of course, we have not gotten all of it. So it's coming right back again, but you're saying mint is a good thing. Yes?
Well, I think it depends. I mean, there's certain cultivars that are really invasive. So I'd be careful with which cultivars you're using, but like there's a catnip, there's a catmint, this nepta. There's different ones that are much more formidable for, I think, the way that we would like to use them. So it's just kind of being careful that, because there is a point where you can get, you want to do the research, not get carried away and put something in your yard that's going to kind of take over the world, right? And there are some of those out there. But I feel like, you know, we're pretty well coached. Like you said, when I said mint, your like siren kind of went off. I would definitely, when you know something is said to be invasive or you think it's invasive, I would definitely look into it, make sure that what you're putting in isn't. But I also would say too, like if you've got grass is a really great edge, because like mint will never rival grass. Like where grass starts, mint would end. So if you wanted mint in a small space, even invasive mint or anything other than like horsetail, there's some things that just like bamboo and horsetail that you just don't want in your landscape. But something like that isn't as strong as grass, you could compartmentalize. And I think that's like kind of going back to that first design, packing things into planters. Kind of you're allowed to break a lot of rules that way because you've confined a space that says, it's kind of like the kids' playroom. You're allowed to do whatever you want in this room with balls and toys and things of that sort. But like when you leave this room, this is the dining room, you know, we're not going to play in here. So I think that's a good question because I think you do have to be careful where you plant certain things, and certain types of mint would be a good example of that.
That was a great answer though. Thank you. Are there any other questions before we wrap things up, guys? And if we missed anything in the chat, please let us know.
Yes, you're right, Caitlin. They do, wasps do pollinate fig trees. Just so you know.
Wow.
I know, the really tiny little ones, not those big ones that we have, but the little ones. That's good.
All right, well, I'm going to just share my screen one other last time here and just share. We've talked about questions. I just wanted to throw this out there because there was someone who posted on Nextdoor, and it's an owner of a wholesale land, you know, a wholesale place, wholesale nursery. There's my words. Thank you. Wholesale nursery. And he was saying, listen, we've been in business for 30 years and they've gone through tornadoes and hurricanes and all these other things. But this time that we're in right now with our economy, they're like, we need help surviving. And so they opened up as wholesalers to the general public. So I just really wanted to encourage each one of us as we are gardening to really support our local nurseries and wholesalers so that we're helping small businesses thrive. And that includes a business like Jesse's as well. And so if you need help with your design, get in touch with him. You know, he's on Instagram. You saw that. We're going to get you his information tomorrow in our follow-up email as well. So let's help small businesses thrive. And just wanted to remind you that we have 2 more webinars this month. The next one will actually be next Friday. It's the first one we've done on a Friday, but it's at 7 p.m. And I am going to be hosting that with my good friend Ephraim Brady. He has been trained in Venezuela for traditional Chinese medicine. He has so much knowledge. He's also certified in Tai Chi and all that kind of good stuff. But he has just the sweetest spirit about him. And he loves the Lord with all of his heart as well. And so, you know, if you're someone who's going, oh my gosh, I'm a person of faith, I don't want to know anything about traditional Chinese medicine, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. It is really science-based. Our bodies have been made by God in the most beautiful, incredible ways. And there are different places in our bodies that we can apply our oils that are going to make them so much more effective and targeted really for what we're wanting to do in helping to support our overall health and wellness. So I really encourage you to join us for that webinar. It's fascinating as I've been doing the work with him to prepare. It's amazing. And then if you are someone who's new to oils or just needs a refresher in knowing the basics, we are going to be meeting, I don't know if y'all can see that, but Thursday, April 30th at 7 p.m. And so that's going to be another really great one to join us for. And we just want to say thank you because we know that you have taken time out of your evening to invest in your knowledge this evening. And this is just such a great topic. And it's been so fun to spend our time with you. And I really want to thank Jesse for joining us tonight for his investment in each one of us because, you know, time is valuable. And he invested his time in us to share from his wealth of knowledge and expertise. And so we're just really grateful for you, Jesse. And so if you have any questions, please follow up with the person who invited you to this webinar. We are here to support you. And Julie and I will be getting you guys an email tomorrow that you will have additional information. We're going to get you a link to that continuous spray bottle that Julie was showing you. I'll make sure to slide in Marsha's Jade Lemon Cake recipe because, yeah, that's just the best. And so a couple other things we've talked about tonight, we will make sure to get those to you. So thank you again for joining us. We are so grateful and hope you all have a great night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.